Dance, what we know is, as I've mentioned there, Brighton have had yet another apology from the PGMOL, from Howard Webb, the head of the referees in the Premier League, about that Matoma incident. They're not happy with that. They want clarification on some of those other contentious calls, including the sending off of De Zerbi. They're yet to really be told why he was dismissed from the touchline once again this season. And we now know, Dance, that Brighton are also looking for dialogue with the PGMOL on other decisions over the course of the season that have gone against them. Do you sympathise with Brighton? Can you understand why they're so frustrated?
Completely. They should be getting more letters than Harry Potter when he hadn't signed up for Hogwarts. They should be flying through that letterbox at Brighton from the PGMOL, full of contrition for some of the mistakes that were made yesterday, compounded by hapless VAR. That's all I can say, Alex. I mean, watching it back again when I got home last night, I knew I couldn't. The T-shirt line thing got me at first. I think I said in commentary, I give up, when Mitoma had put that ball in the net. In fairness, Darren Cann had flagged for a handball, so it was an on-field decision that would have had to be reversed by VAR. But we've had the T-shirt line thrown at us constantly, and then when it appears that Mitoma, the ball has come, if it's come off his arm and not the top of his shoulder, it's come off the T-shirt line, suddenly that's handball again. Somebody please explain to me what's going on.
Well, I think before we bring the guys in, part of the frustration for Brighton is that obviously Darren Cann, as you mentioned, he flagged the VAR. Michael Salisbury decided that wasn't a clear and obvious error. There wasn't grounds to overturn that decision. Then on the flip side, you get the second goal. Danny Welbeck scores. Now, I don't know, still, having seen the replays, if that struck the arm of his teammate before going into the empty net.
Correct.
I don't think there's conclusive proof on that.
And yet it took them 2 minutes plus to decide that it wasn't. So
how can you use the clear and obvious argument in one
they're
decision?
They're trying to re-referee the game, Alex. They're trying to re-referee the game. They're trying to think of a reason not to award the goal. That's not what it's there for. VAR is not there for that. I went on a bit of a Twitter rant about this last night. VAR it's been purported to be a faultless system, but it's run by human beings who, by their very nature, have faults in them. You and I, Alex, were at Stockley Park 4 or 5 years ago, where we had the training day, where we were told an untruth that VAR was meant to be minimum interference for maximum benefit. Please tell me any good examples you can give me, particularly years down the line, where VAR should now be a finely tuned machine, where you have seen minimum interference for maximum benefit, because to me it appears to be the exact opposite.
I mean, Danter, I'm sick of it. I can hear in your voice you are. The guys in here are sick of it. I
never wanted it, Darren. I never wanted it.
And look, in terms of Spurs, it worked for Spurs, but it means nothing to me. That it's ruining football. Not the VAR itself, but the way it's being used by the match officials. What should the ramifications be? I'm sick to death with PGMOL coming out with apologies. It's the same as a false apology from a player when they lose a game, in my opinion.
I don't know what they can do. I don't know what they can do other than apologise. You can't replay history, unfortunately.
How can you get it so wrong?
I don't understand what the relationship is between referee and VAR and what they're talking about to each other in their earpieces half the time. That goal you mentioned, that Alex mentioned, the shot that Welbeck took,
McAllister,
that deflected off McAllister, as Alex rightly said, it's hard to tell whether what part of the body it hit. If it did hit his arm's down by his side, but you can't tell whether. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter because it's in there. It's part of a goal-scoring opportunity, but you can't tell that it's hit his arm, and yet there's a definite decision that it has. And the problem with all of this is that you're trying to use objectivity to deal with subjective situations without wishing to sound too complicated about it all. Goal line technology is objective. It's either over the line or it isn't.
Yep.
When it comes to pretty much every other decision that's on the field, there is a subjective nature to it. Whether it's 1% subjective or 99% subjective, that's there. And you add the extra layer of refereeing on top of that with VAR, then you're in a whole world of trouble. Even long before VAR, the notion of a referee's assessor sitting in the stand, marking, usually an ex-player. I think Kenny Hibbett used to do it an awful lot.
Martin Allen does it now, ironically.
Yeah, referees, assessors. I don't know what the referees make of the fact that they know they've got somebody sitting up in the stand whose sole purpose is to mark them down or, critique their performance. And that's been going on for, as long as I've been covering football as a commentator. And now you've got as well as a referees assessor, so you've got a double threat now with VAR and the referees assessor. Refereeing can be poor at times, but so can players, so can managers. They're human beings. I never wanted VAR. I don't suppose we're ever going to get rid of it because there's far too much money that's been invested in it, and there's no way it's going to get mothballed. I just want Howard Webb to get a grip of making the best of this technology, simplifying the system, and stopping the crud that I have to deal with, and you have to deal with, Alex, when you're commentating on Premier League matches, when you don't know what you're watching half the time.
Yep. Dan's well said, very passionately said as well. I'm sure we're both grateful there won't be any VAR in the games we're commentating tomorrow. We've got a quadruple header from the Championship. You're at Luton against Blackpool. Big game in terms of the playoffs and the relegation picture. And I'm at Bristol City against Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough as well. Both those games live on talkSPORT 2. Dan, thanks very much for joining us